Welcome to AZAAZ, that is Ask Zenatta Anything About Zoho, the show where we take your various Zoho questions on the Zenatta YouTube channel, YouTube comments, or over in Club Zenatta, our online community, and we spin those questions into solid Zoho gold. Today, I'm your host, Greg, Director of Zoho Development here at Zenatta, and today I am joined by an illustrious crew of misfits. For you Potterheads out there, consider us the Marauders of the Marauders map. We solemnly swear that we are up to no good. I've got Lucas Santana, one of our senior developers. We've got Wayne Martin over there, head of marketing, and one of our senior consultants, Landon. Oh, I'm sorry. And Lucas he was a senior developer, now is a consultant.
I'm a double agent now, yeah.
He is, yes.
He is up to no good.
Definitely, for sure. But yeah, we are excited to answer a couple of some juicy questions that we've received over the last 2 weeks. Let's jump right into it. All right, this first one is directed directly at me from one of my Getting Started with Deluge videos from Logan Simpson. Asks, hey Greg, simple question here, but how do I get the console in the Deluge editor to show horizontally along the bottom like in your video here? Mine is showing vertically on the right side. This was a funny question for me as a developer, because the console window, for those who maybe haven't delved into Deluge, when you go into edit a function, you can manually execute that function, and any info statements that you create gets shown in a little debugging console that pops up after you run your function. And anybody who's using Deluge currently knows that shows up on the right-hand side of your page. At the time when I recorded that video, there was a span of, like a month? Maybe not even that. It may have only been like 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
That Zoho put that console window down at the bottom. And everybody made a stink about it, myself included, because it's not where we were used to seeing it. And we all said, put it back. And the Zoho kowtowed, and after about 2.5 weeks, they put it right back up there on the right. So, Logan, I'm sorry, but we all bullied Zoho into going back to the way that it used to be for us. So, that's a firm server setting, my friend.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anybody have anybody here have preferences for that? When you've, I know that like Wayne, you don't do too much Deluge editing, but I don't know. Did you guys like the bottom bar? I didn't like it.
Yeah, honestly, as soon as I saw it there and I realized you couldn't change it, I emailed like 3 different Zoho support emails. Just
if you blaming Logan, blame Landon. Like, he ruined it for you. So instead of asking,
I saved you the trouble.
Yeah, see, I think that it probably is because the average Zoho user, including myself, uses a widescreen format, longer than it, wider than it is tall, and so for us, there's always a bunch of white space in the Deluge editor. And that's a perfect spot for that debugging window. But probably over at Zoho, they all probably use vertical monitors, that are really tall, that are, valued by some coders. And if you were using a vertical monitor, I could definitely see where having that debugger at the bottom is where you would have more screen real estate.
I don't know, because normally the text that is in the debug window is also like taller than it is
Yeah.
that it applied. So it's kind of like it's better to have like screen shared anyway, even though if you have a vertical monitor, you should see it like one on top of the other. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. And it still broke the HTML of the page. So that was
Yeah, and I can't think of a single editor where it is on the bottom. It's always on the left or the right, or it's the top sometime.
Yeah, some like VS Code, you get like responses at the bottom, something like that. But you can choose. And that is, I think, is the biggest thing. If you could choose, would be great. Like,
and that's why
have it.
And that's why at this point, I try to set up my codes so that I just create like a giant info map as one variable and then just spit that thing out so that wherever it ends up, I don't even care about trying to read it in whatever debug console. I just put it all on a map and then I double click it, highlight the whole thing, and then paste it into a JSON viewer. Okay. And then I can make it as big as I want. It's great.
All right, this next question is from Synergy Scientifics, referencing our Zoho Sales IQ full Zobot tutorial. I think Tyler did this one a while back. Super helpful video. At one point, it looked like you copied and pasted a whole string of cards onto another response thread/string. Not sure what the proper terminology is here. Either works. I reached out to Zoho about this, and they claim it cannot be done. And that's only the entire chatbot can be cloned. Is that what you did? I actually watched Tyler as part of this video to see what he was talking about here. And yes, that was just an editing thing we did. Tyler actually didn't clone anything. You have to manually create each string of responses you're going to create for the cards. So Zoho is right. You can't clone sections of the cards you make.
All right. So our next question comes from Daniel Arambula, coming from a post called "Forcing Users to Add a Note" in Club Z Q&A for AZAAZ. And he says, "Hello and happy 2024 to Team Zenatta." Thank you, Daniel. I want your take on the following scenario. We ask our sales reps always to keep an open task in their opportunities. Ideally, we want them to add a note every step of the way, but I found that sometimes when a task is due, the user simply added their task, moved the due date, and never add any notes. Is there a way I can keep them from doing that? I looked into workflows or blueprints to no avail. I guess I can trigger them on notification when a due date is edited, and I could double check. But I was hoping for some Zoho automation magic to do that job for me. Any ideas? All right, so I have a couple ideas, and I wanted to get the other guys' takes on this as well, because this is one of those things that can have multiple solutions. Will depend on how you want that to be forced, actually. But one thing we can do is just create a validation rule on the task and say, if you want to modify the due date, we check against the due date. If it's associated with an opportunity and you want to change the due date, we can check if there is a note associated with that opportunity. And if there is, we'll let them change the due date. If there isn't, we don't. Something like that. Or we can keep it inside and have an automation inside of the task that will populate that task automatically. If there is like a opportunity note on the task, that will just get that for you. That is one idea. And the other idea is just having like a more, I don't know, like a more forceful approach, and just have it auto revert the due date back to the original date whenever they change it. So we can do that as well. So it will depend on how forceful you want to be with that. Guys, do you have any other suggestions for this?
I think for me, I was going to kind of say, like blueprints do, where it pops up, you have to add a note, which is exactly what you said, right? When you go to change it, if you go to change the due date, check to see if it has a note. If it doesn't, don't let them save it, pop up a note or whatever it is. And then the other thing would be kind of the back end of it, like he says, a notification. If somebody does change, allow them to, and then if somebody does change a task or a due date and it doesn't have a note, then email them or something. I'd go with option one, but hey, is what it is.
Well, see, okay, so I was reading this question. I was trying to figure out if it was referring to actually like like CRM notes, or because he says always keeping an open task in their opportunities. I thought, was it like I assumed that it was just like an open task to add a note. Is it an open task to add a note, or?
I would imagine it's like a follow-up task that's always open. Have clients that do that, right? That keep like you always keep, never is an open opportunity. You keep a live task that you just progressively kick it forward to like follow up and have that done. But and then you need to add a note whenever you're updating that task due date. So imagine it says like, follow up with Greg. I follow up with you. You don't get an answer, or you say no, or something like that, and then I just put a note saying that that's what you responded. But apparently, people are just like moving the due dates. Yeah.
And are they adding the notes to the deal or to the task?
I would imagine it's the deal. It's the opportunity. Yeah. So yeah, the blueprint would work fine if they were progressing stuff out of the buttons on the deal itself. But because they are working on the task, right? The task is what we're trying to block from having the due date tampered with. Maybe
So I guess part of it depends on are agents allowed to make their own tasks, or are all of the tasks kind of procedurally, or not procedurally generated, but if they're automatically generated, then I suppose you could just edit the field permission for due date, right, to the agent's profile. Like it's read only for the agent's profiles, and then but of course that doesn't work if agents also need to be able to make their own tasks and everything like that. So
I looked into client scripts as well for this, but client scripts don't work on tasks, so I don't think it'll be a viable option. We could have something on the deal itself that would pop something up whenever they finish the task, or they extended the due date of a task, and then you go into the deal and the deal checks that for you with client scripts. But I mean, the surefire way to go is just like training. I think it's the best way to go about this and have your people do the right thing. But if you're trying to enforce something, then you need to check like how forceful you willing to go. And if like the notification less forceful, just like let them do whatever they want and just check it out. But you can also do like, you can prevent them from doing stuff. So yeah, it's going to come down to what you want to do.
All right. Our next question comes from Warren P. I assume that's a play on War and Peace. They're probably their favorite book. It's a nice coffee table read. This is from the Zoho FSM tutorial that Tyler did a little while ago. Warren asks, "Hey Tyler, thanks for the excellent video. We are a startup IT services company. As you know, the IT industry has thousands of variations of hardware, software, services, and skills. Do you know if Zoho FSM has the ability to import a master list of 2,000 or so skills for the company, as well as an individual list of 500 skills for each field tech? In a perfect world, each field tech could log into Zoho FSM and easily select the 500 skills that apply to them, but I don't believe that's possible, so I'm guessing importing each list would be the best approach. Also, I'm wondering if Zoho FSM has the ability to send text notifications to the field techs for new jobs to see if they're interested, but filtered based on their skills. If not, then maybe Zoho CRM has that ability, and I know that Zoho CRM can be integrated with Zoho FSM. Well, Warren, I went on quite a little journey, kind of exploring your question here on Zoho FSM. And first thing that you mentioned is the use of skills, right? So skills are, you can create a list of skills that you can then assign to users, so that users have specific skill sets. And then those skills can also be attached to different work types or particular work orders to help you match those up. Now, I will say that the volume at which you're talking about for skills here, I don't know that I haven't seen a specific like limit mentioned in Zoho FSM, but I'm pretty confident that you're not going to be able to get 500 plus skills created in Zoho FSM. First off, you can't import skills into the FSM. You have to create them one at a time. And a comparative app that I'm going to talk about here that I think might actually be more along the lines of what you might want is Zoho Desk. Zoho Desk also allows you to create skills and assign them to agents. Also can't import those skills, unfortunately. But in Zoho Desk, you can only have a maximum of 30 distinct skills per department. And so I have to imagine that in the FSM, it's probably something similar. So, I mean, I think when you're talking about skills here, that sounds to me more like that those are the different, I think those might actually be just your services. I guess it depends on how granular you're talking about all of these skills, because I assume that you're probably referring to like, I don't know, what do you guys think he's even referring to when he's talking about like 2,000 different skills? Is like each each software piece that could exist for it? Like, Adobe Creative Suite, Adobe Illustrator, like, is it different software packages or different like pieces of hardware?
I don't know, networking. If they have like networking services and they want to do like, I want to deal with routers and I want to deal with modems. But the thing is, I think where you're trying to get it is that probably those skills, if I can deal with routers, I can probably deal with modems as well. And then you should be able to aggregate those skills in a small subset of skills, right? So instead of having 2,000, if you have, 50, that might be a little bit more, it make more sense. So if everyone has 500 skills out of 2,000, if you have, I imagine they are very mixed, but if you think about it, it's pretty much just like you have 4 sets of 500 skills and you're covering the 2,000. So if you create like a smart subset of those in each like little blob of skills, it might give you a little bit of it might make more sense for this application.
I think if you're doing that many, it's got to be way, way specific. Like this guy is allowed to install Cat 4, Cat 5, Cat 6, Cat 7 cable, So, if you do little blobs and, put a few of them together. I mean, worst case scenario, if you have CRM and you hook that up there, you could make a module and say, hey, we basically do our own skills, blah, 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 but blob them together, keep them in FSM. That's what I'd say.
Yeah. And so this is where I want to jump into talking about Zoho Desk instead of Zoho FSM. Because like I said, you are limited to 30 skills per department, but that is per department. So you could try to, you'll still have to try to pare these skills down a little bit, but you could create, various departments for, so like hardware installation, security software. I don't know what your particular limits are, or not limits, your particular breadth of field. Yeah. But inside of buckets. But you could create various departments at Desk and then create more specific skills in each of those departments, assigning users to them. And the other thing is that they mentioned in their question here that ideally they want their technicians to get notified when just like a job is available, and then kind of first come first serve people pick jobs. And I don't know that FSM is built quite in that way of people picking jobs. I believe FSM is more built for like dispatch, like someone
scheduling
assigning people and scheduling and sending people out. But I think Desk could actually serve you a little bit better in that way. Desk, for example, does actually have SMS notifications available for agents when a ticket is created in their department, or if like they've been put as part of a particular team. So you could maybe even create teams based on different skill sets, and then assign tickets to teams, and then people can get a notification, and then somebody can go in and opt in, like, oh, I specifically want that one. So yeah, I think so I would say at least take a look at Zoho Desk, and see if maybe its capabilities are more in line what you're looking for.
I think worst case scenario, if you absolutely have to have it as detailed as the 2000 skills 500, like if that's a make or break, I think kind of what he says at the bottom, maybe Zoho CRM has it. You could do custom module for the skills and the people with all your entries. And when your jobs come in, if they meet it, then integrate a text message. Obviously, that's a lot more. I think the other solutions are probably better, but if for some reason you absolutely have to have all those individual things, then that's probably what you're going to have to do.
Yeah, then put in Smooth Messenger or whatever, and that every time a job is created. But then you're pretty much having to recreate FSM in the CRM from the ground up. But hey, that's also why that's also a lot of the kind of business that we do. Is it's like, hey, your thing's super specific. We need to help you build it from the ground up,
and we're more than willing to do that. Yeah, just you can go to our website and then meet with somebody who's not us.
Unless you need some SEO stuff, then I got you. But Kevin Bacon asks, can we use Zoho campaigns to create a newsletter from information held in a custom module in Zoho CRM? For example, a list of news stories or web links. Could we loop through these via Deluge and add the content to a newsletter? And this is from Club Z. So there's a few things you can do. You can sync Zoho Campaigns doesn't have customer API, so you can't do any Deluge inside of Zoho Campaigns. You can, however, you sync custom modules to campaigns, but you would need an email field in that custom module, which you're not going to have in this instance. So I think the simplest way to do it for a newsletter, honestly, would just be go inside campaigns and just, create one and then clone it and then make the edits to it every week. However, you could create HTML based on that custom module inside the CRM and use Deluge to create an HTML template for you. And then you could just copy and paste that into campaigns. Or the other option could be you could still map those custom fields from the contacts module and use Deluge to create, 4 or 6 like newsletter field 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then have it auto pull or populate every week, bi-weekly, monthly into the contacts and update every contact module and have it kind of buried at the bottom to pull that into campaigns. But yeah, those are really kind of the only options. You guys think of any other options?
I was thinking, sorry. I was thinking of analytics. Analytics can integrate into campaigns, can it?
Yeah.
So maybe analytics could be a source of those links. I'm not sure. Haven't tested it, but as you were giving the options, I was thinking like if analytics can integrate in, maybe we can create a table with those links, and have that like I know if it's not going to be like a mailing list or if we can use it on a template. If we could use it on a template, it could be a solution.
So are you talking about being able to use analytics in conjunction with the CRM, both integrating into campaigns?
Yep.
Because if you set up analytics to link to campaigns, does it? So obviously you would use like an email to like match to an existing contact. Does analytics does it like prioritize one sync over another? I'm not sure. So like what I'm wondering is that if an email in the analytics table, if it sees, oh, there's already a contact in our system, but that contact was created from the CRM sync services. So I'm not going to touch that contact because the CRM sync service is in charge of that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if the analytics one ignores it or if it will update other fields on that contact.
Yeah. So, but the idea would be like create a massive table that would have all the contacts with all the links and then send through there. I'm not sure if that like create the columns for each link, but yeah, it's an experimental thing. It could be. So it's another idea.
All right, this next one here. After watching the Beginner's Guide to Understanding Zoho Inventory Basics, Shami Kamal asks, "Hi, I have a question about sending samples. I use Zoho for my fabric company, and often I send my leads and customers some hangers or a couple of meters of fabric for free. How or in which module can I save all free samples? And I'd like to see at the end of the year how many samples or meters I've sent." This one's pretty simple, whether you're using inventory or CRM. Honestly, the easiest way is just to save those free samples as a product and have a value of 0 so you don't charge anybody for it. You know, if you put it on an invoice or even if you don't, and then that way you can see who you sold those to, who you sent them to, and at the end of the year, add up how many meters, just put a quantity of, each item, the unit is 1 meter. And then if you send them 3 meters, just send them a quantity of 3 meters, that sort of thing. And you can do that in CRM or in inventory pretty easily. So
we also had a fun time with this question. We were discussing it offline. Landon said a couple meters of fabric. It's MT period. So we all were going back and forth trying to figure out, did they mean meters of fabric, metric ton of fabric, or a mountain of fabric? Hey, I don't really know how the fabric game works and how large of samples we usually talk about here. I like imagining a metric ton of just fleece just showing up on my doorstep. All right, next question comes from a tip of the week video that I made just recently. 3 essential tips for improving error handling in Deluge. David Thornton asks, "Thanks, Greg. Very useful. I couldn't find where in Zoho Books you can create a standalone function. Is there such a thing? I want to call a common function from both a bill workflow and an invoice workflow." So just to give a brief summary of that video, I talk about using standalone functions to compartmentalize your functions, using try catches and if else statements, and then bundling your error and info logs into a singular variable that then can be passed to an outside database. So in the case of standalone functions, very apparent in Zoho CRM. Zoho Books, it's not quite as clear. So technically speaking, there are not standalone functions in Zoho Books. However, we have found kind of a workaround. I think, Lucas, does your call by reference workaround still work? Last you checked,
yeah, it worked perfectly. Whenever it breaks, gonna break a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So essentially, what you can do is any custom function that you create, because if you're in Zoho, if your books, inventory, whatever it is, you go to the developer space, there's a spot for custom functions, and then those custom functions you can then attach to workflow rules on another screen, right? But any of those individual functions, if you look at the top of the Deluge editor, you have the function name, and then it's got some parentheses, and then the 3 or 4 input arguments that are hard coded into there. So for example, let's say you create a function that's based on the invoice module. I might have a function name called update_invoice, and then it's got the input arguments of invoice, organization, and maybe user for whoever is the logged in user at the time that the function fires. So what you can do is inside of any other custom function in Books, you can actually just reference another custom function by writing that custom function name. The trick is that in the case of standalone functions in the CRM, always have a return. You can you get something back. In the case of these more automation functions, you don't specifically get a return message back. So one, if it's something that you can kind of perform, if you're trying to perform something asynchronously, it's already perfect. It's not really asynchronous because it still needs to finish executing on its own. But if you don't need to get a message back, then you can just write the name of and then pass in however many input arguments are required for that function. And so then the workaround that Lucas discovered was that the variables that you pass into those input arguments, whatever happens to those variables in the other function is retained and can then be pulled from after you call that outside function, right? So in the case of custom function, and then my input arguments of an invoice map, an organization map, and then it says a user map, but you can just put whatever you want in there as long as you're not calling that user map anywhere in the standalone. And then you could just put a map in there, and then in your function, put things back into that original map. And then after the standalone function runs in the function that you're calling, this totally makes sense, I'm sure, to everybody who's listening. You can then access things inside of that variable after the fact.
Which variable?
The one that you used.
You got to choose which one in theories.
Yeah, you know what? As we're talking about this, Lucas, I think you and I should probably make a video on this of how to get a value by outside reference. I don't know what you would even call it.
Yeah, reference.
Yeah,
it's a good way to put it.
Yeah, but other options, if all of that was just all Greek to you, simpler options are you can also turn on incoming webhooks inside of books. If there are some common, repeating functions that you want to use. And again, if you don't need to get a return statement back, you can create incoming webhooks within books, and then just inside of one of your workflow functions, just do an invoke URL to send data to that Zoho Books webhook. And that can asynchronously take care of. And that one I think actually would be asynchronous because your original function is going to move on as soon as the webhook is just sent.
Message. I think it returns a success message or not. Not that it
but
just took.
But it's not but it's a success of just was the webhook successfully sent and caught. Yeah, I think it's the same.
I think that the response of the webhook is the last thing you pass out. It's the last argument it's the argument that you return. So because you create a results map, right? To pass it back. But yeah, so I think it's synchronous as well. It's just not going to be at the same function body, but it's still going to run in runtime, in the same runtime. That's what I'm trying to get back.
Okay. Well, it looks like we might have to test that out and get back to you.
Stay tuned, David.
All right. KA over on Club Z, using Zoho Forms and CRM to qualify leads, ask, I'd like to automate the creation qualification of CRM leads from any visitors to our Zoho site that request access to information, free reports, white papers, etc. My question is, what are the correct apps in Zoho One to use for these workflows? I'd appreciate feedback on alternate best practice ways to achieve the end outcome, i.e. new leads in the CRM that qualify and progress themselves, lead source, lead stage, tags, etc. via automations when they complete simple progressive steps. Here is my current thinking, which is probably overcomplicated or tedious user experience. Please help me refine, and thanks in advance. And then he goes on in Club Z. to kind of go through the 4 or 5 different steps he has. The main steps he is stuck on, I'll go ahead and read those since they're 4 and 5. Customer must click the Zoho Work Drive link and perhaps also submit identifying info to access and download the free reports PDF. And then the step 4 link, click and or complete of the data entry updates the CRM lead stage score, sets a tag and even a task to sales to follow up the now qualified engaged lead. So this is a long one. And after kind of going through it, not to overcomplicate things, but
Yeah, that's my job.
Yeah, I'm not gonna keep it as complicated as the last back and forth with Greg and Lucas there. But I think what you would want to do is like for the work drive link side of things. So when they essentially submit the form, they're rather than sending the thank you message directing them to the link, maybe have the thank you message say you'll receive an email shortly. So when the form is submitted, to simplify this whole process for you, you could have a hidden field on that form that updates a record inside the CRM, whether they're a lead or contact. And it basically, you could have a checkbox field that says white papers inquiry. And then that can trigger an email inside of Zoho Campaigns. So you can set up a workflow inside of Zoho Campaigns, and it automatically sends an email as soon as that field is updated. So let's say, white papers is triggered. The workflow sends off the email with a click here link to send them to the work drive where they can access the white forms or the PDF. And then when they click on that link, you can go ahead and trigger an action based on if they click that link inside of the email. And then you could go ahead and update another field or score or whatever you would want to do or update a stage even based on if they clicked on that link inside of the email. So I think to simplify things, the easiest way to do it would be that way there. You can also, you can control things on your website too. So if they click on the link inside the email and then you want to have them fill out another piece of it, I think the less they have to fill out, the better. So I think keeping it like that through the email, because they've already filled out one form, you don't want them to have to keep putting in their email in different places just to track it. So once they're in your system, keeping them through a series of emails or whatever it may be, I think would be your best option there.
All right. So Luis Rodriguez asked on Club Z general discussion on a post on how to handle honorifics like PhD, MD, and etc. How do you handle suffixes for names in CRM contact records? We need to address many letters with suffix like MD, MBA, RN, or whatever. Our previous CRM could parse names into a prefix, name, and suffix, but I'm not seeing whether this can be done automatically in Zoho CRM or whether we manually need to add it as suffix, like a custom field. Thanks in advance for insight and advice. So, Luis, I believe that the way you can do this is really with the custom field, but Zoho recently released something that is a global set that you can pre-fill all of those honorifics that you have, and then you can use it in multiple places, so you wouldn't lose track or keep it like out of date. So I believe that you need to use call suffix or call honorific or something like that to be reused inside of functions. We could use like a formula field if you want to build like a name with honorific. Afterwards, if it contains an honorific, we concatenate the string, so it would be Lucas Santana MD, for example, or Greg Belknap PhD, just to have you like it, right, Greg? Just to have it in there so you can easily use it. But I believe you would still need to go with the custom field. I don't think there's another way around. You guys have other ideas about it?
Well, it also depends on how is this getting filled in? Like if you're using like a Zoho form or something like that, to pass in. There is in like the name, for the name form field, you can enable, by default, it's just the first and last name, but you can enable title, which I think that would that fall under here? So you could show the title, and then you can, I think by default it has title, first name, last name, middle name is the default order. But you can rearrange the order of that. So if you went first name, last name, and then title, hopefully people would recognize that, oh, that's where I can put, senior or PhD or MD, and then you can just pass that into the field wherever you want. You could probably also look at, like you said, with if you had to parse from the last name, you could probably write a good regex script for this that would check a last name field for, oh, does this last name field end with, a space and then one of these, predefined options.
Sure. Yeah, you can parse it out if it's being input by the person. Yeah, sure. If your people are importing it in, that it would be a field, like makes more sense. It's easier to treat.
Yeah.
But if it's coming externally, then definitely we can, like, you can parse it out of the name, especially because you know the options already. So that can be make life a little easier, for sure.
Yeah. Or still your same initial solution of, even if it's coming in externally, have a form that has a drop down for those different or probably not a drop down, because I think you probably would want to keep it as just a single line field and let people write in whatever they're going to write in. Because I feel like those, unless you're in something like the medical field, and you are specifically like, the people filling out this form are going to be either an MD, an RN, a PA, right? Where that's really well defined. But if it's a much, bigger, more open net, you're not going to be able to account for every possible suffix that people want to attach to their own names. So a single line field might be, maybe they could be an MD, PhD.
Yeah.
My brother is trying to be one of those, which I don't understand why you would need so many letters after your name, but yeah.
All right. So to wrap this up, we got the last question here. John Bloomfield on Club Zenatta in the general discussion created a post called Email Records. He says, does anyone know of a plugin or add-in that can automatically make a PDF copy of every email we receive or send to or from a client and place it into their folder in WorkDrive? Actually asking this for a friend who's considering switching his firm to CRM and Zoho Mail. I just had to read it like that. He's asking for a friend. Sure, buddy. Anyway, he's ideally looking for a system that can do this as an audit trail of emails outside of itself for him. Apparently, he manually prints everything as a PDF now. He's an auditor that works with external people, and they need to be able to access it that way. Sounds like an absolute time suck, but I know people in my industry would probably be interested in it too. So there may be a plugin or something out there already. So I looked. I did not find a specific plugin or add-in or anything like that, but do have a couple of solutions for you. So if you want to get super technical, writing a bunch of API calls and all that stuff, you can do just about any of this stuff, whatever way you want. The easiest, in my perspective, would be create a workflow in the CRM. So, right, and the emails come in, or have it, in your Zoho Mail. Basically, anytime an email comes in, the easiest thing is, if it's in CRM, run a workflow that runs a function. That function can get the email contents with an API call. Could create a mail merge document that just puts the content on it, right? That's fairly simple, kind of halfway. The other option is, and this would probably be a little bit easier, especially for someone, if your friend, right, is not terribly tech savvy, right? Using Zoho Flow is a little more intuitive. So you could set it so that every time an email comes in, it creates a webhook with that email content. Then in Zoho Flow, you can receive that webhook, and then you can take that and manipulate it however you want, whether you want it to, create a document directly in their work drive folder, whether it be a mail merge or just have it, add a line with that email content to like a spreadsheet, that sort of thing. But it sounds like if you still got to print them off, every single one, have it come into Flow. It can check based on, the email that it comes from. You can look it up against a CRM contact record, even if you've got, 6, 7, 8 emails for them. As long as it's looking to those specific fields, it'll find the right person, so you know what folder it's going to. So grab the contents of that, put it probably into a easily templated writer mail merge document, so that you're not having to figure out each time, signatures in the way. You're printing out your email, it's going to look the same each time. You just have who it's from, to the contents. And then you can put it directly in the folder. And again, Zoho Flow, if you're doing it in there, it's a little more, intuitive. You've got the flow and that sort of thing. So it's a little bit easier to figure out. But yeah, so there's a few different options there, but I think that'd be probably your best bet, especially if you want it automated for everything coming in, everything going out. Just do those triggers and the criteria based on what email it, is to or whatever. Look up against your contacts to make sure it's in there, and then you know where to put it.
Well said, Landon. And that's going to wrap it up for us here at AZAAZ this week. Another one in the can, boys. Nice work. And always, if you guys want to meet with, any of us eventually, then you can head over to Zenatta.com and click on Book a Meeting, where you can get a free consultation, find out if there is some stuff we can help you with.
Yeah, and if you want to check out the Ultimate Zoho Resource Library, where we talk about all the Zoho apps and our opinions on it, just go to Zenatta.com/resources.
And to never miss a beat with Zoho news, things that we're doing, webinars, tutorials, code shares, pretty much everything, subscribe to our newsletter. It'll drop in your inbox every Monday morning.
And you can head over to club.zenatta.com, where a lot of these questions originally come from. We also keep all of our announcements and events over there, not just ours, but Zoho's events coming up, as well as code shares that we provide every week that might be able to give your CRM or desk or books a little boost.
And make sure to head over to Zenatta.com/training to get yourself and your entire team trained up in less than a week in both basic and advanced use of Zoho apps.
And as always, we would appreciate a like and subscribe here on YouTube, as well as your favorite choice of podcast app. We will see you all next time.